Hello everyone and welcome to Cross-Gen Gaming, where I'm so excited to add another episode about acquisitions to our list.
Woo!
Because, God,
yeah,
there have been a lot of them. It's like half of our episodes.
But I mean, you know, we're moving toward that one game, one console, one gaming company future. Everyone under EA. That's what I'm hoping for.
That's what we all want.
We're on the way there. Good job.
We did
it.
So excited waiting for that to come out. But all this is coming from a company called Embracer Group. Bought a lot of Square Enix properties for just $200 million, which is surprising when you see what all they bought. They bought the studios of Eidos Montreal. Is that how you say it?
Eidos, yep. Eidos Montreal, yep.
Eidos Montreal. Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix Montreal, all playing a different bunch of games, with Eidos Montreal having the new Guardians of the Galaxy game, which has been amazing.
It literally is on my list. I found the crazy thing. I found the collector's edition at Best Buy, brand new for $20.
I'm jealous of that.
I know. I know. I was like, yeah, I will have that. Thank you. Thank you.
They also made Deus Ex Human Revolution, another really amazing game.
And Mankind Divided. Can we talk about Human Revolution? We'll get into it later, but I'm so excited. I'm so excited about that.
And I'll make sure to point this one out since I know you want to hear it. And they did the Thief reboot.
They did do that one. That one was tough. Oof. Thief. Hey, Thief fans, represent.
The whole 10 of them. You were really good at like focusing on those one games that like 10 people like.
Okay, first of all, how dare you? Second of all, there's dozens of us, okay? Dozens of us who like the original Thief. Immersive Sims. Let's go, Immersive Sims.
Yeah. This one's for you, you dozen people.
Dylan's going to play Thief 1 on stream with me at some point.
That'll never happen. Crystal Dynamics has made ever so popular Marvel's Avengers, which,
Boy, howdy, did they. Lost them a little bit of money.
Just a bit.
Lost him a little bit of money. Just a bit. Tiny bit.
But I'll admit it's impressive that it's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say that.
I'm still shocked that it's not free to play.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever.
They also did Legacy of Kain.
Legacy of Kain! Let's go! Dozens of us again! Let's go! Blood Omen 2, original Xbox. Are you kidding me? I own that. Do you own that?
Why would I own that? Why? I don't own that.
You don't, but they do. They know.
I don't own that.
It's real good. Soul Reaver, come on, Soul Reaver.
What you're saying? Words
Soul Reaver.
That like
Soul Reaver's so good. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. Continue.
They also made this new set of Tomb Raider games.
Now everyone knows those. Those are good.
Those are pretty big.
Even you Zoomers know what that is.
Yeah. Let's go us Zoomers. That one was for us.
Yeah, it was.
And then finally, Square Enix Montreal made all of the new like their mobile games, the Go series, Deus Ex, Go, Hitman Go, Lara Croft Go, yada yada yada. But again, to remind you, this was all bought for only $300 million.
$300 million.
To kind of compare and give you an idea of how low that is, Rare was bought by Microsoft in 2002 for $375 million.
That is a big deal, guys. Listen, this goes back to like last episode. We were talking about like how little the Xbox has sold. This is kind of a big deal. I don't think that you guys fully grasp how impactful these IP are and how little this amount of money is. Like, you know how we're talking about like, you know, the $69 billion nice for, you know, Activision Blizzard and stuff. Mm-hmm. This is so much lower, such a tiny amount. It's such a small amount.
It's not even a 69th of it.
Nice.
It's so much lower. I can't believe that it just went for that. That Square Enix is like, yeah, that's what we want.
I saw somebody on Twitter was trying to justify being like, well, you know, they actually made money back on this because they lost like $200 million on Avengers. And all I could think was, do you understand how successful the Tomb Raider franchise has been? They just sold again, if they had just sold the Tomb Raider franchise, if they just sold Tomb Raider for $300 million, I'd be like, wow, that's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
But like, they sold Tomb Raider, they sold Deus Ex, they sold well, I guess they didn't really sell Guardians of the Galaxy because that's a whole different thing. But they sold Thief, they sold Legacy of Kain, and people like me, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Crazy.
It didn't sell Hitman. Hitman did get kind of sold off to IO Interactive. They're doing their own thing with it, which is, I'm actually really excited about that. But anyway, this is such a small amount of money.
Yeah, it's crazy. But this isn't the first time Embracer Group's gotten,
some fresh IP.
They've bought a bunch of notable studios, including Deep Silver in 2018 for 149 million, which they had Saints Row and Metro,
among other things. Deep Silver, people should know,
of course. But hey, pretty big games. And then in 2020 for 525 million, they bought Saber Interactive, which
you were so confused by, I believe.
A bit. I was unsure.
You're like, this is $500 million for what? And then I said, Evil Dead, the game. That's who's doing that one.
And so another dozens of us sort of game. But
first of all, I'm playing that one on stream as well, so shut up. Thank you. And it's coming out time of recording, it's coming out in 2 days.
I'm so sorry.
And that is Friday the 13th. This game comes out on Friday the 13th.
Okay, that is pretty fun, actually.
That's pretty cool.
I like
That's
that.
pretty cool.
And then in 2021, they bought Gearbox for $1.3 billion.
Oh.
Which, I mean, obviously, Gearbox, Borderlands, this is a pretty big franchise, and, Duke Nukem, but...
Duke Nukem! It's me, Duke Nukem.
I feel like you'd... Again,
Hail to the king, baby.
This is another one where I just think you're the only one excited about that.
Listen, Duke Nukem is one of those franchises that like millennials look back on as like we're ashamed of it, but we still love it. Like I'm ashamed that like I have watched and played Duke Nukem, but like at the same time I'm like, listen, that's just how it was. Okay, like I'm sorry that like Duke Nukem sucks because he sucks, but like. I do want to see them try to make it happen again. Anyway,
who knows? The possibilities are limitless with this.
We could see Duke Nukem in the Thief game.
That would be crazy. I don't know what that would mean.
Oh my gosh! He'd be sneaking around and just being like,
I don't think.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't do that though. He's not a sneaky man.
And then you could kick people and be like, he would say a cool catchphrase that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Oh.
He would say groovy and then kick it.
Yeah, of course. One day maybe we'll be as cool as Duke Nukem ever will be.
It's true.
But they also, lastly, they bought Dark Horse Media and Asmodee.
Asmodee, yes.
Asmodee.
So that one was weird when I was looking it up. Do you know Dark Horse Media? Yeah.
I know Dark Horse, yeah, because of their comics.
Right, and that includes they own Dark Horse Comics now, and they also own several large board game manufacturers, including the people who make Catan. They own Catan.
That's weird. That's so odd.
Do you say Catan or Catan?
I say Catan, but I don't really like Catan, so I don't say it.
Put it in the comments how you're supposed to say it.
They, the past only, what is this? From what we listed, 4 years? Oh, God. 4 years. They've bought a decent amount of companies and with a decent amount of IP.
They've been spending money to make a metaphor for their Legacy of Kain series that they just acquired. It's like they're the eternal vampire Kain, and they're going around sucking the blood from all these other studios to make their life force, aka developer presence, much larger.
Shout out to all of
we
five
all know, we all get that. We all know that
metaphor. That one was for you. But amidst all of these acquisitions, you might be wondering, who the hell is Embracer?
What is an Embracer Group?
What's an Embracer Group?
Who's this crazy cowboy? Just this like man with no name who's rolled in, in the sunset and been like, I have so many properties you don't even know, and then shoots everybody.
Yeah.
What is up with? Who is this guy?
Yeah, this is honestly the first time I've heard it, and with all these lists, it's crazy that it is. But so we've got a quick brief little timeline here to introduce this new mega company with all these mega guns.
Or should we say reintroduce?
Possibly. You'll just have to wait for the timeline and see. But firstly, they were originally established in 2011 as Nordic Games Licensing. Might tip you off already. And then in 2013, they bought a lot of THQ's assets. And then in 2016, changed their name to THQ Nordic.
This is THQ Nordic, guys.
This is THQ Nordic. coming out of the woodworks.
And so then in 2019, after they changed their name, from TH to THQ Nordic in 2016, in 2019 they were like, actually, this is really confusing. Let's change our giant parent company's name to Embracer Group. So actually, the publisher THQ Nordic still exists, which is why you still see games coming out by THQ Nordic. But they changed the larger parent company to Embracer Group. It's a similar thing that happened with Google and Alphabet. So Google initially was like two separate, or at one point was two separate companies of like Google the acquisitions group and Google the tech company. And Google the acquisitions group changed their name to Alphabet.
I did not actually know that. Little tech history tip with good old John.
Just to kind of put things in some perspective, is that this actually kind of makes Embracer Group one of the larger holders of developers in the gaming space. And we have a little chart that we're going to pop up here so that you can look at while we kind of talk about this. You'll notice that the largest grouping here is Embracer Group on the far right there. And then even with these recent acquisitions that Microsoft has made, you can see that their slice of the pie is about on par with EA or a little bit bigger than Sony. It's similar to Take-Two. Ubisoft over there just kind of squandering all the talent that they have per usual,
and just making places with their name on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's good for branding, I suppose, but it's just funny to see
the Ubisoft corner.
It's like the Ubi zone over here by itself, just hanging out.
Oh, that's being used in some marketing.
It absolutely is. Hey, if you want to join the Ubisoft Plus, then you get this. You get access to the Ubi zone for kids.
It's a little tag under your Uplay name.
Yeah, exactly.
The Ubi zone.
Some notable people that are missing from this graph, obviously, are Nintendo, and then a lot of other larger Japanese companies like From Software or Capcom or Konami or Nintendo, like I mentioned. Bungie's not on here for reasons I actually don't fully understand why. But this is not a comprehensive list, but it is interesting, and that's going to be linked in the description, so you can check it out for yourself.
John, how do you feel about all this news? What is it making you feel? Are you concerned at all?
I'm never concerned about this kind of thing, Dylan, because the reality is
You're too smart for it.
I'm too smart for it. I mean, maybe. The bigger thing to me is that Square Enix has been like squandering these groups for a long time, and it really made me mad that for those of you who don't know, Square Enix for the longest time was trying to establish like a foothold in the Western market with these studios in particular. Crystal Dynamics was probably their biggest one, Eidos Montreal being a second one, and they had some pretty major titles. Again, Deus Ex Human Revolution is a game that like I love. I think that game is fantastic. Mankind Divided was a little bit of a messier situation, not because it's necessarily a bad game, but some of the messaging that they were trying to like deal like with pre-orders on that one was really weird. And like you had like if you pre-ordered it, and then you would like unlock a certain amount of like, it was super confusing. It was very, very, very strange. And then obviously like the Tomb Raider franchise has been just doing gangbusters since it was rebooted back in 2013.
Oh yeah.
But all of those games, according to Square Enix, just like didn't do well enough.
Yeah.
We would constantly hear like Tomb Raider reboot did poorly, even though it sold like 4 million copies.
And was generally liked among everybody.
Right. And so like, anyway, it just set up this weird precedent of like, I think Square Enix was so used to like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest numbers that they were like, what is this nonsense? You mean people are discerning? You mean they don't just buy whatever we sell? You mean we can't just slap the word Tomb Raider on it the way we do Kingdom Hearts and then somebody will buy it? What is this?
What is up with all this nonsense? Yeah. It is really interesting. Cause like I do feel I feel kind of mixed on the news because, like you said, Square Enix has been basically neglecting these companies, and I mean,
they've essentially said that they're not doing another Deus Ex because it didn't sell well enough, which is ridiculous.
And then even with Guardians of the Galaxy that came out, and people were like unexpectedly like, oh, this game's actually really sick.
Because their marketing for it was horrible.
Their marketing was pretty bad for it. But
I think that you and I were talking about that before it came out. I was like, I literally like we hadn't seen anything for it, and they were like, it's coming out in October. I was like, this game is either going to be like pretty decent or garbage.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
And the last game that I can remember being that way was Doom 2016. And like Doom 2016,
really?
We basically saw nothing. And it was like awesome. So.
Yeah. But yeah, with the Guardians, it's highly regarded, not by Square Enix, basically I'm glad that these companies and mainly the IP is in a different hands, because there's at the very least potential for something better. When I feel like with Square Enix, there wasn't. There really wasn't.
Right. It's the same thing with like, Activision Blizzard kind of being, going through the acquisition process of Microsoft. There's just all these dormant IP that no one has done anything with. And at the very least now there is the chance that the people who, grew up playing these original games, the original Thief, hello, the Legacy of Kain games, hello, even just something like the Tomb Raider reboots, maybe they're going to look at it and go like, hey, we want to continue that legacy and make them the best that they possibly can be. I really want a new Deus Ex. I can't express to you how good. Oh, it'd be so good.
It would be interesting.
The one thing that makes me a little trepidatious, to use my $10 word of the day,
it is a big word,
is that Square sold this for so cheap. That's really concerning to me, because it's, to me, again, as someone who's not really in the industry past observing it from the outside, to me this screams we are hemorrhaging money.
Oh.
To me, that's what it screams, that they need cash now.
Oh.
Like it's the whole JG and Wentworth, they need their cash right now. It's my money, I need it right now. And the problem with that is that if that's what's happening, that means that Square Enix could then be purchased by a larger company, potentially someone like Sony. Mm-hmm. And then we now have Square Enix being fully controlled by a, console manufacturer,
yeah.
which is not necessarily the worst thing, because that's what's happening with Microsoft. But the reality is, having titles like Final Fantasy exclusively on PlayStation, while it was cool back in like the 90s, I think everyone's been pretty happy that you can now play Final Fantasy 15 and hopefully 16 on an Xbox or PC, or the chibi versions on Switch, I guess.
Yeah.
But to me, it screams of like a little bit of desperation. I'm really confused as to why they sold it for so cheap, because they had to have known the value of it. Unless it was a situation where like, you know what, we don't really care. We just want to get it out. We want to be done with it. We can't be bothered. Which could have been it. Honestly, it could have been it. But it makes me a little bit nervous for the future of my beloved Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2.
Yeah.
And your beloved Kingdom Hearts 4.
My dearly beloved Kingdom Hearts 4.
I feel like you're in like a loveless marriage with Kingdom Hearts.
I mean, that is one way to phrase it.
I feel like that's how every Kingdom Hearts fan is with Kingdom Hearts. They're just like, yeah, it's a loveless marriage. Like, they're there. I'm not gonna do any better. Whatever.
I don't know. There are some people that love it to death.
That's true. I've met a Sonic fan as well, and that's the same situation. So,
hey,
Sonic games fans, we can't have this discussion again. You and I both know what's happening. The fact that they're like defending Sonic, what was it, Sonic Forces? Come on.
Yeah, it's been fun. but I saw this purchase when it was coming out, and I was baffled. I'm not smart enough to think that they were hemorrhaging money, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, why? I had zero clue why they would sell it for so cheap, because I really think
it really is confusing. They
could have made a push for a decent amount of this stuff. Like, again, they've got good potential, good IP, and just nope. 300 million, take it or leave it. Okay. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And obviously we don't know all the details of what's going on, but
no.
At the end of the day, we do have some idea of it. Really, again, Square Enix has always been the company that's focused on JRPGs first. The Japanese market is their primary market. There was this weird push back in like the early 2010s to kind of have a lot of Japanese developers go Western. And like make Western studios and do this kind of stuff. This happened a lot with Capcom as well.
Really?
That was the whole issue. Yeah, Keiji Inafune, the reason that he left is he was actually leading that whole push, and they just did such a bad job. They just did such a bad job, and so then he left to go do his cool Mighty No. 9 thing.
Woo, that went well.
Inafune-san, great job. Anyway. He did a bad job. It's such a bad job. So this kind of leads into the question of like, well, if they're hemorrhaging money and like they're not doing so hot, what are some other companies that could potentially be sold? I mean, we've been seeing acquisitions left and right every year. We saw, Microsoft bought Activision and Blizzard. That's still being processed. The Bungie deal is being potentially hung up by the FTC at this point. That Sony one there. Ubisoft has mentioned that they might want to be sold at some point. They're kind of floating that idea around. It's just really, really interesting. So what are some other studios that you can kind of see being purchased or sold or whatever?
I mean,
Nintendo, right? Nintendo's losing money. They lost so much money on the Wii U that they need to be sold.
They still never recovered. It's been so long, but that was the permanent stain on their clothes. Never gonna.
Can I go to a quick tangent real quick and talk about like how many people? Listen, guys, everyone, come in.
All right, hold up.
I understand that back in 2015, it looked really bad for Nintendo. As a Nintendo fan. But the amount of people that I talked to who were like, well, Nintendo just needs to start making games on Xbox. You guys are so stupid, okay? Do you know how much money Nintendo has? Do you know how old Nintendo is? Nintendo was founded in like 1898, all right? 1890 freaking 8. They have sold every console for a profit. Do you know how many console manufacturers do that? That's right, one. It's Nintendo. Every console they've ever sold, they've made a profit on. They have so much money in the bank. They could have lost that amount of money that they lost in like 2014, 2015 for probably like 15 more years and still been fine. It wouldn't have been great. That's not ideal.
Certainly not ideal.
They have so much money. It's ridiculous. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about that one. Nintendo ain't going anywhere. And as far as I'm concerned, as the big Nintendo stan on this podcast, on this show here, Nintendo is video games. Boom.
Whoa.
You don't have video games without Nintendo, baby.
Wow. I mean, I agree. Bold statements. Bold statements on this Breath of the Wild podcast. We're all about
Breath of the Wild podcast right here, baby. Breath of the Wild. Woo, 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 woo.
But I mean, I feel like there's a couple like of the big name studios that still are. I don't know if they're necessarily like, besides Ubisoft, obviously, that are like open and saying, "Hey, buy us, please." But I think there's potential. I mean, I think Capcom has the sort of potential there because, I mean, they're pretty big, but at the same time, they haven't been doing all that much. And with the new, is it Street Fighter 6? We're on 6 now, right?
Yeah, 6 has been announced.
Yeah, the Street Fighter 6 and all the resounding praise it's gotten from its small trailer. We'll see. It's been it's been interesting for them. So
I just like Luke's weird forearms, just being like, brr.
It's so weird. Why is Ryu that large? It's too large.
Ryu is thick.
He is a large man.
I have a lot of it. That's a whole separate discussion. I have a lot of thoughts about the Street Fighter.
Of course,
but the reality is Street Fighter 5 did not do super well coming out of the gate, and it took them literally 2 years for that game to like really catch on with fans of the Street Fighter franchise. And the only other like big thing that they've done has been Resident Evil. Obviously, is their other big cash cow. They're not doing a whole lot with Mega Man. They're not doing a whole lot of other like Marvel versus, like the Versus series is kind of
unfortunately.
They really are Street Fighter and Resident Evil, and they've both been good.
They've been good, but it's within this slew of companies buying other video game companies. They're kind of on that. I don't want to say chopping block. That sounds evil, but they're in that little slew there.
They're in the sphere of potential acquisitions. What would be bigger though? What would be better, to buy Capcom or to buy Konami?
Konami would be large.
I think Konami. I think them buying Konami and actually like making a Castlevania game finally would be like a really big deal.
That's the only reason you want that. You just want another Castlevania game.
I don't just want a new Castlevania game. I also want a new Silent Hill game.
Okay, of course. I'm sorry. I should have known.
I also want that. Thank you very much. I want them to just like partner, like, hey, now we own Konami, and guess what? Now Konami has partnered with Kojima Productions to make Silent Hills with Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro. And I'm over here just like doing cartwheels in my house because I'm so happy.
you are in a living dream.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Oh my god. But there's no way, right? Konami's too big. There's no way.
Konami, the problem with Konami is that they're not actually losing money
No.
because they're doing it. They're making other stuff, and like they make a lot of money on pachinko.
Oh yeah. They're
So-
huge in that stuff. That's what I mean, that would be crazy.
Their video game sector is losing money, or at least not
That's
making them a lot of money at the moment. So I can't say if they're losing money. It's just been meh.
Yeah.
The fact that they had a Contra game called Rogue Core to come out.
I'm calling out right now. I'm showing footage of that game because that game looks awful.
Can you make sure it's the one with the panda? Just like the panda
that's
rolling
what I was
around.
thinking of. It is such an ugly game. Oh,
It's so bad. I was so excited about that game when they announced it too. I was like, oh look, cool, new Contra. Oh, and it's like a twin stick shooter. Because like again, as like an old school like nerd, like big time. I played Contra on the NES kind of nerd.
old man nerd.
An old man nerd, they actually had some really cool games on like the PS2. There's this one game called Neo Contra that I would love if you could find some footage of that and put it up here.
Try my best.
That game is awesome, by the way. It is completely insane, and literally you are at one point running on the blades of a helicopter as it chases down a missile that's going after the president. I'm pretty sure it's amazing, Dylan.
That's
I'm telling you, that's the level of silliness that they need to embrace, and I just don't think they ever will. So.
But that's just our thoughts and opinions. What are your thoughts and opinions? We'd love to hear them down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like. And if you want to catch more from us, make sure to subscribe and hit that ding dang bell to be notified.
The ding dang bell.
Everyone loves that ding dang bell, except for
Everyone
you
loves the
when
bell.
you hit it. How could you do that? But yeah,
You should click it though. It actually helps us out a lot, and it lets you know when we post new episodes.
but if they want to see more of you specifically, John, where can they find you?
You can find me at Twitch over at twitch.tv/thegreatyuke, where I stream every single Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, although I'm gonna be honest, I don't really post there that much because I find social media to be kind of boring. But hey, you should find me on Twitch. I'm playing through Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance right now. It's a lot of fun. With the PS3 that I have right here, it literally like catches on fire every time I play. It's fun
Oh,
because it's the original backwards compatible one.
exciting.
Dylan, what about you?
They can find me on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at The Dylan Machine, where I will post mostly Destiny stuff.
If you like Destiny,
I like Destiny, so you'll
This is
find
true.
Destiny stuff there. But yeah, that's all from us. We'll catch you in the next generation. Bye-bye.
see you everybody.